Millions of lives at risk, freedom in question. In this special report, we look at what an attack on Taiwan could look like, the impacts it would have here in America, and whether U.S. troops would pay the price.
Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Democracy under assault. What would an attack on Taiwan look like?
The Chinese strategy is to win without fighting. And that doesn't mean that nobody does any fighting, but it's the notion about we want to win by having the enemy not fight back or not be able to fight back, and to undermine them in ways that limits their capacity ability to fight.
That's James Carafano, the Heritage Foundation's Vice President for National Security and Foreign Policy, and a 25-year Army veteran. That notion of winning without fighting falls under what's called unrestricted warfare. The Chinese regime views Taiwan as part of its own territory, despite never having ruled Taiwan. Because of that, the regime has never ruled out taking it by force if necessary. Expanding on that, China expert and author of The Coming Collapse of China, Gordon Chang, writes that a sneak attack on Taiwan would play out differently than how U.S. and Western powers would expect it to. He states Americans may not even know that China has struck the first blow until months after it has occurred. Americans think China's war planners think like America's war planners. Unfortunately, the Chinese ones do not. First strikes, despite what former intelligence officials believe, do not have to look like the invasion of Normandy in 1944. As for the ways that could play out,
if you look at every single part of what makes a country function, of what makes a nation, whether it's businesses, whether it's academics, whether it's, let's say our institutions, whether it's, politicians or influencers or media personalities even, the CCP has methods to target them. And for them, this is warfare, to conquer another nation through non-military means.
That's Joshua Philipp, host of Crossroads and senior investigative reporter with the Epoch Times. He notes for the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, it's an assault on all institutions. Now, why is that? And what really is unrestricted warfare? To understand that, we must first look to China's history, back to the year 1999.
Restricted warfare was the name of a paper written by two former Chinese colonels. And it laid out an idea of warfare that has no restrictions. Anything goes.
Kerry Gershaneck is a professor and the author of Political Warfare, Strategies for Combating China's Plan to Win Without Fighting, and Media Warfare, Taiwan's Battle for the Cognitive Domain. He points out that while the book describes 24 different kinds of unrestricted warfare, the Chinese Communist Party officially adopted just 3 of them. Those are media warfare, psychological warfare, and legal warfare. And now those are playing out.
Let's focus in on cognitive warfare on Taiwan. A number of the news media organizations in Taiwan are run by people who are getting their funding from the People's Republic of China. And so the stories that you read, the editorial stances that you see could have been straight out of Xinhua, okay? Could have been straight off CCTV, because in effect they are. The funding that comes in, the funding that they use from advertising, for example, or they'll use the business community to affect the media organizations. For example, you could have a pro-Taiwan newspaper, but if the people who are advertising in that newspaper are pro-PRC, they're going to say, fine, we'll pull our advertising, you'll go bankrupt, you'll go out of business. And what you see, and we have seen, both there and in other countries, is the newspaper, unfortunately, through moral cowardice, bends. The newspaper will say, okay, fine, we'll change our editorial stance. We want to stay in business. We have mouths to feed. So that's a little bit of lawfare. That's a little bit of media warfare or public opinion warfare. Psychological operations. The large number of aircraft incursions in the Taiwan ADIZ, Air Defense Identification Zone, that's psychological warfare. That's designed to wear down the people of Taiwan. It's designed to wear down the pilots and the commanders and the troops, the airmen in Taiwan, because they're the ones that have to scramble all the time to respond to this.
Talking about media warfare, it's not confined to traditional media. It travels through all mass communications.
But the other way that they reach us is we're a highly tech-savvy, Taiwan, especially tech-savvy, the United States. Everyone's got their face in their iPhones. Everyone's on a different social media platform. And so the cognitive warfare coming at us through the online, through the internet, the way that's bombarding us through deep fakes, the way it's bombarding us through disinformation, propaganda, and it's done in such a way that a lot of people don't even know that they're doing it.
Now, as for a kinetic assault on Taiwan, what would the time frame look like? Diplomatic sources told The Telegraph a Chinese invasion on Taiwan would likely happen in 4 stages and completed within 48 hours. That short time frame is needed, as the longer the window stays open, the more likely allies like Australia, Japan, and the U.S. would mobilize and head over. Looking at those 4 stages, first would be a blockade, cutting off help from the U.S. and Japan. It would also cripple Taiwan economically, financially, and operationally if continued for a long time. Following House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit in August, Beijing seemed to try out the blockade strategy, albeit briefly. That was by holding military drills surrounding the island. Secondly, the article notes Beijing would aim for an island grab. Beijing has long considered the outer flung islands of Taiwan, the small Fujian province islands, as part of its own territory. Some sit less than 6 miles from China's mainland, including Kinmen, a chain of islands just east of the coast of Xiamen City in China, and the Matsu Islands, northwest of Taiwan. The article explains Beijing could seize these islands, home to around 20,000 people, to see how the West reacts. Under the U.S.-Taiwan Relations Act, the U.S. regards these islands as part of Taiwan, so Washington may feel forced to intervene. But that being said, President Biden may not want to risk an all-out war over these little islands. The third stage of invasion would come as an air blitz. The Chinese regime has already been sending scores of warplanes into Taiwan's air defense identification zone. And last but not least would be an all-out offensive that would combine air, sea, land, and cyber, ranging from drones to troops to even potentially hypersonic weapons. The goal would be to overwhelm Taiwan's defenses as quickly as possible and squash any will to resist. But this would also guarantee an international response, which is why the diplomatic sources warn of that short 48-hour window. On that front, experts have noted the importance of Russia's invasion of Ukraine as a lesson for Taiwan. As for what Taiwan can learn from it, Carafano says,
I think the lesson for Taiwan is that's a situation you want to duplicate. You want to be able to survive an initial Chinese attack to demonstrate that you can, and then you want to have a way that people can bring you aid and support and be resupplied. So that means holding Chinese Air Force at risk at depth, right? It means preventing ships from being able to move in and land on your shores. So that's anti-ship missiles. It means holding the places that the Chinese would launch capabilities from in the mainland at risk. So the ability to fire long-range missiles to interdict ports and airfields and other facilities. So those are the kinds of capabilities that the Taiwanese are going to have to build out. And then also a capability to defend landing sites against a Chinese incursion.
Now, on that kinetic side and whether the U.S. would send troops there, Carafano says,
I don't see a scenario where U.S. troops are put in Taiwan. Taiwan is not a treaty ally of the United States. We have a commitment that we've made to contribute to helping Taiwan's self-defense. That's in America's interest. I think we'll honor that commitment. I think that commitment will come in terms of many forms, including diplomatic, political support, economic engagement, certainly helping provide Taiwan military capabilities to help the Taiwanese defend themselves. But the single biggest contribution the United States can make to the defense of Taiwan is the commitment to keep open the Straits of Taiwan as for free and open traffic. So the United States has to and should exercise the ability to defend air and sea space. That's the biggest contribution that the United States can make. Having American troops on the ground in Taiwan actually wouldn't really be militarily significant, and I don't think it's something that of value and worth doing. What's much more important is the United States' ability and commitment to support Taiwan self-defense, keeping the sea lanes open, keeping airspace open, and I think that's where the focus of U.S. support will be.
That's all for today's China in Focus on YouTube. We're now sharing a shortened version of our program here after being demonetized for more than a year. Here's what to look out for in our second half. We hear more from experts on why Taiwan remaining independent is crucial to the U.S. and the steps we can take now to counter Beijing's growing aggression. The full episode is available on our partner platform, Epoch TV. To sign up, click the link down below. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. See you tomorrow.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.